Okay, this is the review. First section is all about function operations, so you have to be able to read the directions. So the first question says find f of -3, so that means we need to use the f problem. So it's going to be 6 minus parentheses squared, and then this is x equals -3, so we just plug it in. You can type that whole thing in the calculator. This ends up being -3 as your final answer. G of -9 says to use the g function. So g is 2/3 parentheses plus 1. It says to plug in the 9. So we put the 9 in, you end up with 7. When it says g of 6x, it just means plug in the 6x. So you've got 2/3 6x plus 1. When you do this in the calculator, you end up with 4x plus 1. F of -5, very similar. F of -5 says 6 minus squared, put in the -5x. So when you square this, remember this means there's 2 of them. So that ends up being 25x squared. And then you've got your 6. That's your answer. 5 says find f of x plus 1. So f of x plus 1 would be 6 minus squared x plus 1. This 2 means there's 2 of them, so we're going to have to FOIL this out. So you have x plus 1, x plus 1. Then you have x squared plus 1x plus another 1x, and then plus 1. So when we simplify all this stuff, it's x squared plus 2x plus 1, still in the parentheses, and then we bring everything else down. So you have 6 minus. This minus is like having a -1, so when you distribute it across, it changes all of the signs. So minus 2x minus 1, you bring the 6 here, and now you can combine your like terms. So you have -x squared minus 2x plus 5. That's your answer. Next problem. Remember this right here does not mean times. So this means f of x minus g of x. So it's a substitution problem. It means to subtract the two problems. So you have 7x squared plus 2x. And you have 7x plus 10. So you're going to distribute the negative first. So you have -7x minus 10. And you have 7x squared plus 2x. Combine like terms, so you end up with 7x squared minus 5x minus 10. Let's see what we got here. We've got find f over g of x. So remember guys, division, we don't know how to divide yet. So this just means put x, the f of x function on top. Should be the easiest problem on the entire test. And then put the g of x function on the bottom. That's your answer. Part B says what value of x is not in the domain. So remember, you can't have a 0 down here. You can't have zeros right here. So what we do is we take that value, set it equal to 0, solve it. So you have 4x equals 5, so you divide by 4, divide by 4. So that's actually the number that doesn't work. That's our bad number. So x cannot equal 5/4 because it's not in the domain. Next problem, it says to multiply them. So remember, this doesn't mean times, it means f of x times g of x. So you have 4x minus 3 times 4x plus 3. FOIL this out, you get 16x squared, and you get plus 12x minus 12x minus 9. So we combine like terms, and you end up with 16x squared minus 9. It says what value of x is not in the domain? All values are in the domain. All values are in the domain. There aren't any bad numbers. Why? It's because this one has all real numbers as the domain. This has all real numbers. So if we were to add, subtract, multiply, or divide, the result will also be all real numbers. So there aren't any bad numbers. That's page 1. Page 2 says find g of f of 14. So it's got the number in there, so that means we start with this. So f at 14 is equal to 3 radical 14 plus 2. So if you type that stuff in the calculator, I think you end up with 12. So then the second problem is the g problem. So now we find g of 12. So g of 12 is -1/2 12 squared plus 3 times 12. So you got to make sure that you account for all of your x's. If you forget one of the x's, you're going to get the whole problem. So you do 12 squared first, or you can type the whole thing in the calculator since it's just numbers. So we end up with, let's see, plus 36. I think we end up with minus 36 as our final answer. Next question, find f of g of x. So this is all letters now, so we start with this one, we write that one down, so we got this squared minus 6, and then it says to put this problem inside. So you got the square root of 5x plus 1. Square root and a square cancel, so you have 5x plus 1 minus 6. Combine like terms, and you have 5x minus 5. That's your answer. Same thing, start with this one. So you got negative 5 parentheses squared plus parentheses plus 2. And you put the g of x problem. G of x problem is 3x. 3x. And you got to do PEMDAS on this. So we have to square this first. So you end up with 9x squared times negative 5 is negative 45x squared. Then you have plus the 3x plus 2. And that's your answer. Next problem, start with the g. The g is 20 parentheses. And then put the f of x function on the inside. So you have negative 5 over 4x plus 2. So you have to do the distributive property. So you end up with, let's see, 4, 5, negative 25x plus 40. That's your final answer. Okay, the next question, they want to talk about, like, it says which column contains the mistake. So you got to check to see if they did it right. So in this problem, you got to write down the f problem. The f problem is x squared plus 4, and then you got to put g of x on the inside, which they did. G of x is 2x plus 5. Now the big thing about this, though, and a very common mistake, is this 2 right here means you actually have to write it twice. So you should have this twice, and when you FOIL this out, unfortunately, it does not give you this. There is actually 3 parts to that answer. So column A has a mistake. And we should also check column B just to be sure. So column B, let's see if they actually plugged it in right. So we're starting with the g problem. So you got 2x plus 5. You're putting the f of x problem on the inside. You distribute. And it looks like there's a mistake right there. Very common mistake. People forget to distribute the second number. That's supposed to be an 8. So which column contains the mistake? Both of them. Describe the mistakes. So in column A, they didn't FOIL right. Column B, I don't like how I wrote that. Column B, they didn't distribute right. Didn't distribute correctly. Okay, there's that page. Okay, find the inverse. The inverse is about switching the x and the y. So you got y equals 12 minus 3x squared. So we take the x and the y and switch them. So everything else stays exactly the same. And then we just solve for y. So I subtract 12. So we have x minus 12 equals negative 3y squared. Divide by negative 3. Divide by negative 3. So we have y squared equals this fraction. And then the last part is to square root both sides. So we end up with f, negative 1 of x, equals plus or minus, because we square rooted it, x minus 12 all over negative 3. That's our answer. Same thing here, so it's just finding the inverse. So you got y equals 4/5 x plus 1. You want to switch your x into y. So you put 4/5 here, plus 1 equals, and now you solve for y. So subtract 1 from both sides. X minus 1 equals 4/5 y. And then if you have a fraction, you need to get rid of it. You just multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal is when you flip the numbers over. So we have to make sure to times it to the other side. So we have to put it in parentheses. So this cancels, that cancels. So that means that our f, the inverse of x, is 5/4 x minus 1. That's our answer. Okay, it says graph the function. It's illustrated below. Graph the inverse function. So we want inverses. In order to come up with the inverse, we've got to find all of these original points that they gave us. And then we have to flip them. So I'm going to write them as like original points, and I'll flip them, and then I'll regraph them. So it looks like the first one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to the left. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down. The next one is at 0, negative 4. The next one is at 1, negative 2. The next one is at 2, 0. The next one after that is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, comma, 2. If I'm going to graph the inverse, all of these just switch. So negative 6, negative 7, negative 4, 0, negative 2, 1, 0, 2, and then 2, 9. Hopefully these all fit on the graph. So negative 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Negative 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's off the charts, but that's okay. And you have negative 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you have negative 2, 1, negative 2, 1. And then you have 0, 2. And then you have 2, 9. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It'll be way up here. So some people have a hard time seeing this, so what you might want to do is draw that line of reflection. So the line of reflection causes everything to flip over so it's backwards. So for example, right here, go this way. Actually, I'll use a different color so you can see it better. I'll use red. So starting here, it's going to come this way because we got the opposite. It's going to come through like this, it's going to come through like this, and it's going to come through like this. So that's your inverse. Two functions are inverses of each other. What must be true about the domain? The domain becomes the range. And the reason why is because the x's and y's are switching. It says, what must be true about the graph of f of x and g of x? They reflect across y equals x. That was the dotted line I showed you in that graph just before. In this problem right here. This right here is y equals x. Anytime you have an inverse, they always reflect over that line. Last one says, if this point is on the graph, which one is on g of x? So an inverse is when they switch. So you just put the y one here and the x one here. That's your answer. And that's it. So hopefully, I know I went fast, but hopefully being able to hear and see that stuff will help you out just a little bit for this next test that we're taking.